I assembled a list of possible interview subjects, and now it was time to really get going. I mailed out hard copy letters to the first dozen prospects just to see how it would be received.
Today on CallumConnects Micro-Podcast, we're joined by Scott Mercer. Scott is a writer and entrepreneur who has just completed The Stories They Could Tell, featuring first-hand anecdotes from 60s pop musicians.
The hurdle I faced began as a mem, but over time it became a slow and steady climb up a gentle slope. I had a concept for a book on my favorite topic, pop music of the 1960s. Now, the basic history of that era had, in my opinion, been done to death, and a number of musicians from the era had written memoirs specific to their group and their experiences. But I thought to myself, what if I interviewed a wide variety of musicians, transcribed their words, and then grouped quotes into logical buckets? Now, that vignette approach would be unique. It would be wider ranging than any of the books on the market already, and best of all, it would be based on first-hand accounts. Now, the idea was interesting, but it sure seemed like a mountain the day I put it down on paper. And then, where to start? I tend to be a kid on Christmas morning, ripping and tearing where a more measured approach would probably be better. My wife provided the grounding I need. For years, while I'd been writing for magazines, newspapers, and radio, she'd been encouraging me to write a book. She liked that 60s music concept I presented, and she was enthusiastic to help by bringing that super organized touch, which was exactly what I am. Together, we designed a website which we called Absolutely Right One. Our thinking, once I started looking for interviews, it would give the people I'd contacted a place to go and see what I'd done, and once the book came out, it would provide a focal point for future business. I assembled a list of possible interview subjects, and now it was time to really get going. I mailed out hard copy letters to the first dozen prospects just to see how it would be received, and it didn't take long before I started getting replies. Now, that was the moment that I've really been waiting for, doing the actual interviews. Now, make no mistake, being properly prepared and concentrating while you're doing an interview is hard work, and I've always enjoyed both parts of that process. Imagine, if you will, for a minute, talking personally with a first-hand participant in the area you're passionate about, whatever that field might be. And I had a lot of aha moments during the interviews where I thought to myself, this is pretty cool. Talking to Bobby Hart about he and his songwriting partner Tommy Boyce writing the Monkees theme based on the producer's outline, and speaking with Tommy James about appearing on the Ed Sullivan Show, and Bobby Rydell about his many times on American Bandstand. Those were for sure. And that's how it went, through close to 100 personal interviews. But other than a foreword and my intros to the book's chapters, I didn't have a word on paper yet. So that was next. Transcribing the best segments wasn't as attractive a job as doing the interviews, but those transcriptions were going to make up the bulk of the book's pages, so they were critical. At that point, my road to completion was clear, and my mountain had become a slope. It took time, but I was dedicated and determined, and one day, it was done. What did I learn? If you want something bad enough, you'll find a way to overcome anything. Nothing's impossible. I learned not to get discouraged or overwhelmed by the size of the project at hand. And when it comes to a project with the scope of a book, that old saying definitely applies. Slow and steady wins the race.
If you enjoyed this podcast and would like to find more inspiring information about entrepreneurs around the world doing incredible things, make your way to enterprisezone.cc.